At Lounges TV, we think you should be paid quickly. So if you want to profit from your talent within 24 hours, then make sure it's on Lounges TV.
Hello there, very warm welcome to the Voice of Boxing podcast. Hope you're enjoying them. Here's another one with another character from our unpredictable, crazy world. And he's a great guy. And he's a guy I've known for a long, long time. And he's a very important man in the business as well. Kugan Cassius, great to have you here, live on the studio floor in Mill Hill. A pleasure to see you.
Important? That's a bit of a stretch.
Very important.
Oh, I'll take it.
You take it?
I'll take it.
You take it?
If you're saying it, I'll take it.
Bless you. We go back a long way. You got into the business, I guess, first of all, through working with Ricky Hatton. Before that, a little bit of acting, a few bits and pieces. Tell us about that sort of time, because it was great getting to know you and then sort of finding you, or what your path was, which was an innovative new one in our world.
Yeah, I called like the 20 to 30 period for me, like the lost years. I don't remember a lot about it. And it wasn't anything to do with like extreme partying and all that kind of lifestyle, because that's not what I mean. I just meant career-wise, I was trying to work out what I wanted to do. And you mentioned the acting there, and I spent a lot of time until I realised that there was no money in it. But I was doing like castings every week, like extra work, which I like doing, but you know, it was waiting for the phone to ring, and then you'd be on a set of Holby City, sorry, or EastEnders. I used to do quite a bit
I
of.
remember you appearing a few times.
I did, and I was like, is this what I'm going to be doing then forever? Like, and this is, I feel like you do find yourself between 20 and 30. It's quite an important stage of your life. But like IFL didn't really happen until late 20s for me, like 29. So, and then that kind of shaped my years from 30 to 40. But yeah, it was a really weird time. I was very overweight at that point as well. I think I went up to like 22 stone, kind of late 20s. I don't know why I let myself get into that kind of situation, but I did. And
why boxing? I mean, how did the Ricky thing come about?
the Ricky thing was interesting because that's actually when I first met you.
Yeah.
Was in Vegas prior to Hatton's fight with Pacquiao.
Pacquiao, yeah.
And I'm pretty certain they did, this is where I met you, they did a couple of days of like a press tour where they did a red carpet event in LA, for one night.
Yeah.
And I think I met you in the hotel, the Roosevelt Hotel.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, oh, it's Adam Smith there. Like, but I was a bit starstruck with everyone. Like, we were walking around, there's like Mark Wahlberg and all these people just around. I know you were kind of used to all that stuff, and I was Ricky Hatton, as much as people may find it hilarious, which I do find it hilarious now that I was in charge of Ricky Hatton's safety. But it was a mad, I was there for 10 weeks in the end. And he writes all kind of stories in that book he wrote.
Who sorted it? Was it Paul Speak? Or was it Ricky?
No, I'll tell you really where it came from. It came from Jane Couch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Jane Couch. I think I met Ricky Hatton on one of the Ricky Hatton's kind of tours he used to do, talks up in Bristol. And I become like friends with Ricky from that point. And we went out a few times. So it'd be Ricky, Paul Speak, me, and we went out to, like, socially quite a few times. And there was a couple of situations that happened, which I can't really say what happened. I'd love to, but I can't say what happened. Because, yeah, even though, like, it's a completely new life for Ricky now, if you like, from back then. But there was a couple of things where I helped him in certain situations. And then, just very weirdly, he sends me this long text. WhatsApp weren't even around then. This is how long ago it was. WhatsApp weren't even around. Sends me this long text, and he says, look, he's heading out for camp, etc. He'd like me to come out there and whatever. And I was like, I didn't even ask him about, oh, is it paid and all that. Like, you know, that kind of opportunity would have done for nothing, obviously. I was paid to do it. But, yeah, it started off it being 6 weeks, then it was 8 weeks. And then by the time he'd left Vegas, it was like 10 weeks and like 9-10 weeks. So, but that had nothing to do with IFL, weirdly. Like, that whole thing didn't really, that wasn't the...
That was sort of a job that came sort of organically from knowing him. And then an IFL...
A year later.
A year later.
A year later. So we're 14 years at the end of October.
Congratulations. That's an incredible achievement. And you've just laid the ground, you've laid the path for so many other people. You know, it's Pied Piper stuff, isn't it? It's, you know, you're the one that's... I guess Jane Couch, you mentioned, in many ways was the first pioneer for women's boxing. Katie Taylor obviously gets the acclaim, and rightly so, but Jane was there back in the day. And I think there's so many. I look around now at press conferences, and you get calls from all sorts of different outlets, and there's so many that want to cover boxing now. But you were the first, and for me, it seemed like it was you. It was a one-man band. It was amazing. It was sort of an incredible change to what we were used to at press conferences and at, you know, big events where you had the press and you had, you know, the Burt Sugars and the Michael Katzes, and then over here the Jeff Powells and the Colin Harts, and suddenly there was Kugan with a camera.
Kugan with a camera. Yeah, look, it was a much easier process back then because no one was doing it. So there was a gap in the market that I didn't realise at the time. I think it took a little while for everyone to realise there was a gap with boxing media to be online.
Was it your idea?
Well, the boxing side of it, yes. Obviously, I started it with James Helder back in 2010, and we went into it not with the vision of boxing. We went into it with the vision of, because came from kind of a bit of an acting background. We came into it to do kind of behind the scenes on anything British. Why it was called iFilm London, which is obviously the initials for IFL TV, until we got a legal letter about iFilm, and then we just changed it, which I don't even know to this day whether it's genuine or not. I got a letter sent, and it was like, it looks artificial, but I didn't really want to take a chance to like carry on with the name iFilm, so we changed it to IFL TV after a couple of years. But we were doing behind the scenes on, like music videos, British film. We did a lot of stuff with reality TV, like Towie had just hit. Obviously, I'm from Essex, knew a lot of the cast back then. So we were kind of doing that sort of content for a whole year. And then the first real big event we did was the Gowan Groves. There's that, I know you was at that press conference. You was on the table with Bellew and Cleverly, where Bellew gets up and calls Cleverly a rat. And that was our first big show.
That was the first one?
Yeah, first big show. That was 2011.
Yep.
And I remember that was the first time I'd met Frank Warren, met Hearn a couple of months before at the prize fighter, which Rocky Fielding won. I think he was the only one to have knocked all three people out
that's right.
for quite some time.
Yeah.
But Jane Couch had a lot to do with that. Just go back to Jane Couch. Jane Couch introduced me to quite a lot of people in boxing. Obviously, I knew a few people from Ricky, and I met a lot of the people around the camp through then. But to actually open the doors at that point, Jane Couch helped IFL quite a lot to get into those doors back then. So, yeah.
And it was different. It was something really unique at the time. Obviously, there was Sky Cameras, HBO, the big broadcasters, but it was really fresh, which is what I liked about you and about the fact you were doing it. And also, it felt to me anyway, I know James was with you at the time, or certainly at times, it felt to me a little bit like a one-man band, and you were going all around the world and you were at everything, and I just never knew how you afforded to do it, which was and probably you didn't. Yeah,
at the time, like I said, it was difficult. We weren't earning money from what we were doing. So if we weren't losing money, that become like, right, if we're not losing money, we'll go and do it. And I got to shout out like Matchroom, like they've been sorting our hotels out. It's no secret, like ever since from day one. Like the other promoters have done it as well, but from literally day one, like they don't have to do that. It's just like I'm talking about from the days of like War of the Roses with Kell Brook and Matt Hatton, all these kind of fight nights you would have been at. But back then, if I wasn't losing money, I thought, we'll go and do it. Don't need to be earning money right now. It's still a process. That process took, 4 years?
Wow.
It's a long time.
Long graft.
Like, would I do something now for 4 years and not earning money? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But back then, it seemed like you had a product there and there was no... Now it's like, obviously, channels are sponsored and people see the advertising side of it. Back then, it wasn't really known that's how you would earn money out of it.
So, there was no real competition, I guess.
But there wasn't either. There was channels in the UK. Seconds Out have been going a while, but obviously predominantly in US.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot. There wasn't anyone there. Literally, a lot of these press conferences, you'd have Sky, or whoever the broadcast were, like Box Nation obviously came in after that, and then me or IFL. It'd just be one. They do one interview and then they do one, and then they're like kind of done with that kind of thing. The broadcaster and then us.
And was everyone fine doing the interviews at first, or were the people just go, "I'm not going to bother with you because you know, who are you?"
I think we not battled with the broadcasters, but it was. I get it because it's still the case now. Like we've never like filmed the fights as such. Like we've live stream fights over the years, but we've never filmed them. And there was always a thing like how much is you were there, Adam. You know, like a lot of the stuff was like, okay, he's there ringside interviewing like a couple of people. I remember there was one point, I've never really spoken about this, but it's all good. But the Gowan Groves were at ringside. Do you remember this?
I do.
The Gowan Groves were at ringside, right? And I was there, and I had my camera, and this is before I didn't even used to use a microphone. This is so... So I'm literally holding this camera here, but it was kind of positioned to where ringside was, and I'd filmed this clip.
So the Sky cameras are all
so
broadcasting the
basically
event.
shot of like the main view.
Yeah.
And I'm on the side. You can see me, the back of me, and then you can see the Gowan Groves. It wasn't kind of hostile, but it was, all right, possibly something could have happened. So I filmed this clip, but I know that people at Sky were not happy with it. And I was like, oh, God. But at the time, like one of our biggest fans was Barney Francis, right? Barney used to love IFL. I don't know if he still watches it anymore.
Head of Sky Sports, brilliant guy, boxing fanatic.
Yeah. Like Barney once told me he sits in the bath watching me and Eddie Hearn. Like it was one of the best compliments I've ever heard. I thought, okay. So Barney was a big IFL fan. I haven't seen Barney in ages, so I don't.
When I see him, I'll say
ask
we've
him about watching me and Eddie Hearn.
I'm sure
in
he
the bath.
does still.
Yeah. But I've seen Barney, and I've gone up to him and I've gone, "You all right?" I was going, "Yeah, I've just filmed a great clip with the Gowan Groves, like half going at it and all that." He's like, "But I just want to warn you, I think there's people at Sky that are not really that happy." And Barney just went, "Go and get it out." That's what Barney said. So I went, all right, well, listen, if I
Barney was always into stories and taking risks, whatever. I understand the sort of the corporate way of if you're in shot and they want to get a beauty piece, of course. But ultimately, we all love a tale. We all love something spicy. And you were there and you managed to get that. And in so many other situations as well.
Yeah, but also, all these kind of clips, whoever the broadcaster is, whether it's Box Nation or whether it's Sky or even DAZN now, whoever, TNT, like the last thing you want to do is aggravate people that are on on that production side of it. And I try not to, but there has been times where it's like you see an opportunity, you do get a little bit cheeky and think, could I go and get that? Could I go and get that? If it, And I probably have got away with more stuff as years have gone on. But back then, it was I'm talking like probably 7-8 years ago. Do you know what I mean? It was a long time ago. But yeah, that's one of the things that always respects kind of who's paying the money for this production, etc. And know that kind of push it as much as you can, but don't piss them off. And that goes for people filming at events now. Like, don't annoy the broadcaster is key.
How did you get by for those 4 years when it was just scratching around and hoping that it would hit? I remember the early Sky days where we would do all this work and we didn't know how many people were really watching. And I guess it was similar to you. You weren't probably getting much traction at the beginning, if any. And how did you get through that period?
That period was still, I was doing a lot of casting work, still doing it kind of while I was still doing IFL. I dropped it out as things kind of progressed on. But yeah, I mean, to get by, to go and do something like, say like a fight week, like 4-day fight week, and that's why I was grateful when, like, I remember that Bellew Cleverly fight. I think it cost us about £500, me and James. So obviously, like, we split it and stuff and whatever else, but it's costing us that money, and then getting up there, that's not that. It's cost you £1,000.
Yeah.
100%. And if you're not even, that's what I said about if you're not making that money back, or even kind of breaking even, how do you go on and do the next one? Like, I struggle to think back then when I've seen loads of channels that have come and drop off, because the reality is, unless someone's behind you kind of funding you, or a sponsor's kind of paying you regardless of what you're doing, or you've got investors, unless you've got that, then I don't understand how you actually go and afford to do these things. We got by. We got by. I was kind of prepared just to use whatever money I had personally, or kind of whatever money I earned outside of the boxing stuff, just to put that in. And obviously, I'd never see that money again, obviously. But
You believed in it?
yeah, it's paid off.
And you enjoyed it?
I enjoyed it, but it went for 4 years before we even had a sponsor attached to...
A long time.
It's a long time, yeah.
It's a long time. What I liked about you, and still do, is the way you interview people. I feel very relaxed. I feel very calm being on the other side. And you've often said to me, yeah, don't worry if there's something you say, I can snip it out. And I think a lot of other journalists, social media journalists, sometimes are looking for clickbait. They I don't say set you up, but I've always felt with you very, very relaxed and assured that I can be myself. I can say what I need to say. But then afterwards you can say, Adam, hey, you okay with that? And that's always made me feel very assured. The other thing is that the way you interview is a very sort of soft and gentle way, in a way. I know you get your questions in and you throw a few stabs once in a while, but I like that. Is it something that was that always going to be your style, or did you just start doing it and think, hey, I'm going to roll with it? Because I think there's a lot of respect for you from fighters everywhere for the way you do that.
Yeah, it wasn't a planned strategic move to be like that, but my style is accurate to me. It's not. I'm not trying to force a style that's just because it suits the industry. I've made it very clear that I don't refer to myself as a journalist. I'm not that person. If you're looking for that content, probably don't come to IFL.
It's like we're a Sky. Well, I was a Sky broadcaster, and you sort of asked the questions in a way, and it was a way of getting pieces done and features, etc., etc. But you were totally different.
One thing that we've always done, and I always look at the people we interview as, it's your content. So if we film that content, and boxers have done it. I've cut unbelievable stuff out of mainly fighters, promoters, managers, out of their interviews. And people might go, oh, well, why would you be doing that? Well, the fact that we're still going and after 14 years and
relationships.
Still have those relationships is exactly why I wanted to be like that as well, because you're right, there are a lot of outlets out there that, I'll be very careful what I say here, but that's not their motive. And their motive is for there and then. Now, an interview gets forgotten about very quickly. Literally, as soon as I upload an interview, it's forgotten about. I've always given people the opportunity for stuff. And O'Hara mentioned it today, actually, at a press conference I was at today. There was a time where O'Hara was really out of favour with, it just kind of split from Matchroom and Hearn, and he was going through all this stuff from social media. And I saw him at the Brentwood Centre and I did an interview with him, and he refers to it, but he doesn't actually say what it was about. I interviewed him about something, and he went off on one. When I say off on one, I'm thinking to myself, this ain't good. This will get me. This is what I'm talking like 100K interview, right? I was thinking, this ain't good for him. It's good for us, as in terms of views, that's it. But it's not good for him. So when we finished the interview, I said to him that I'm going to rewatch it tomorrow, but my inkling is that you don't put this out. Why? I explained to you tomorrow, but let me just watch it back. So I watched it back and exactly what I thought. And I thought to myself, do you know what? But a year later, he's like, I'm so glad you didn't put that up. I'm not saying that happens all the time. I'm just saying, if I think it's bad and I'm not putting it up, please believe me, it's bad. Do you know what I mean? If I'm not putting that content out, or if I'm umming and ahhing over that content going out, it shouldn't be out. That's the truth. The amount of stuff, Billy Joe Saunders over the years.
Amazing, weird, wonderful, crackers.
Great personality. Some of the stuff that's come out of his mouth has been, you know. Billy trusts me as well. Like, I'm friends with his whole family, and it's not even a case of like, where's that?
But that's what I mean. What I'm saying is there is that trust. I think if you start like that and act like that, then I sort of see you and I think, right, I want to talk to Kugan, or I want to talk to one of your guys because I feel comfortable, and I think that's a really important thing from the other side of it.
100%. And there's always, this is one of the main aspects, and fans don't really want to hear this, but ultimately, if you're talking to someone and they specifically don't want to talk about something, like, what I don't understand what people want us to do. Like, we've got two options then. We either don't do the interview, or I ask it and you not you, but whoever doesn't answer the question. But we're not, that's what I said, we're not those people to like, oh, Adam, blah, 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 and then you answer it and then we go, but Adam. Mm-hmm. We're not, that's pushing, not the outlet, and pushing it. And then
and some do that, and they do it very well. And they
you've had it done to you. You've been grilled.
Absolutely, and they get their stuff in the end, and it's hard and it's difficult being the other side, but ultimately that's their style. I think you're right. I think as long as you're authentic to yourself, which is what you obviously have been.
I think so, and we're trusted 100%. We'll find anyone that's with any piece of content that can, from what we've done, tell me otherwise. Are we like the best interviewers at what we do? Probably not. There's a lot of other better people than myself and IFL out there. But have we been the most consistent? Yes. Have we kind of done the most? Yes. But in terms of talent, there's loads of interviews there. I'm an average interviewer, and but I don't need to be Michael Parkinson, or I was trying to think of another famous interviewer, but I don't need to be that. I need to be relevant to what's going on in the sport today, because all our interviews really are based on stuff that's going on today. Like, if I was to sit once a month in a chair and just do one interview a month, and it was about someone's life story and et cetera, et cetera. If that's what I was doing, that would be my field. That's not what I do. IFL's not really, like, we've had longer interviews and slightly in depth, but the main focus of the thing was just getting content that no one else had. So,
and consistent.
Consistency's the thing
the
that
key.
That's the thing that we've been more consistent than any other outlet.
No, I disagree. I think you're a very good interviewer, and I think that's because you are yourself, and you're not necessarily.
I'm not saying I'm terrible. I just don't think. I think I'm okay. I don't look at myself and think, I am the best question asker, or I'm the best interviewer for what I do for our channel, for the whole style of IFL. That's perfect.
Yes.
I could still improve.
And it's not just consistency; it's familiarity.
Yeah,
you're always there. And that gives, I think, promoters, broadcasters, fighters a sense of, Kugan's in town, and this is what we know, and he's been there. And I guess over years, you build up that experience, that sort of respect, and it just continues to grow. I mean, the numbers you've done are phenomenal, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that part of it, yes. Our channels had 1.2 or 3 billion channel views over that period. Yeah, those things.
I mean, is that up against another field outside of boxing? I mean, that must be unbelievable.
It is, but boxing, don't forget, boxing's still still regarded as a minority sport.
Yeah.
Compared to kind of.
Yeah, it's only number
lot of
2,
other
3 when
sports.
it's big like AJ DeBarres or Tyson Fury and
rest of the
Usyk.
year-
Rest of the year, it's just us.
Yes, pretty much. But that's why we've craved this for like a long time. And when Joshua fights or Fury fights or the kind of big names, that's when our traffic will peak. It's like, it's normal. It's like with viewing numbers or with pay-per-view figures. It's the same like process with that. But boxing is not the easiest sport to really maintain. We've done like 40,000 videos. It's not the easiest to keep constant content in boxing.
But there are great tales and great characters and great, stories that you can unpick and discover because fighters are like no other.
Absolutely. But that's because we love boxing. And it's like we're in our own little world. And we think that, I'm going to walk on the street and the world is going to be asking me about Regis Prograis and Jack Catterall and Sonny Edwards and Galawia fight. You think when people are
Great
out...
fights, by the way.
Yeah, well, one of them's been talked about and one of them's been rescheduled. But the truth is, it's like, when there's a big fight because you talk to people that have no interest in boxing.
Yeah, the casual fans come in, the friends come in,
But
they
not even
want
the
the
casual
tickets.
fans. I'm on about literally the people that never ever watch boxing go, oh, because when that Wardley and Clark fight happened, so many people like messaged me going, yeah, we're watching this fight now. Are you at this fight? And I was thinking, these are my mates. Some of them are like mates, and they're asking me if I'm at this fight. I mean, but that's great. But that's what we need more of. We need this every month.
Tell me you're making lots of money now that you didn't make back then and that it's been extremely successful, because on the outside it looks like it has been. You've got a lovely team now. You're everywhere. It's a really important part of the boxing business.
What, you're talking about what I do? Yeah, look, I'd say...
What you've built.
I know, but it's not... It's not a rainbow the whole time. It's like you have to... There's a reason why, like I said, that consistency and that volume of work, right, is why, yes, we're in a position that we are. But there's so many other channels there, and it's difficult to get into boxing now. So I do salute anyone who's brave enough to start anything new online with YouTube, because it's a gamble. You're starting from scratch, and there are obviously a lot of outlets out there that you're competing with. So we're on the reverse of that now. So we've been going longer than a lot of the channels, but now it's like there's a new phase of YouTubers in boxing that are like still climbing and still getting, and they're like possibly what I was when I was 29. I don't know, I'm just guessing. I'm not saying I'm losing anything for it, because I'm still active. Am I as active as I was 7-8 years ago? Questionable, probably not, but that's not because I can't be not at a fight week every week. I have to be at a fight week.
It's your job.
Yeah. But it's easy to get complacent with that. Do you know, like when you do something for so long, it's easy to get complacent, especially when you're in charge of what you do. It's not like I work. Do you understand what I mean? I've got such a great team, whether it, like the content team.
How many are on the team now?
It's me and 3. So our team's been as many as 6. We're at 4 now. I mean, yeah. I mean, if there's anyone out there that kind of ticked a few boxes, but at the moment, like I'm quite happy with that, to be honest with you. But the team really runs from I've got my background team, like who do all the stuff behind the scenes and on the back end of everything. And that's for the last, 6-7 years, possibly longer, And that's what gives me a bit of freedom to still go out and just go and get content.
Yeah.
Because I work with some very good friends that are very good at what they do. And without them, without that background part of IFL, there probably wouldn't be an IFL. And that's how strongly, like, it takes both sides of the front people and the back people. So without the back people, there just wouldn't be either or.
Who's better than you out there, or who's the biggest competition, or who do you look at or don't you? Just keep in your lane.
I've always just kept in my lane. Listen, I rate a lot of, if you're talking, there's two different types of people that do what we do. We've got interviewers and we've got content getters, right? And it's important to know which one you are as well and why you're doing it. So a content getter would be, right, AJ Dubois next week, who's looking for specific content that he knows or she knows will do well across like all the social channels. An interviewer, and this is becoming a little bit of a dying breed now, the interviewer, because the interviewer will look to do 20, 30 minutes with someone. You can't do that anymore. Like, you can't go to a fight week, yeah, and get 30 minutes of a fighter anymore. If I get 10 minutes from Joshua, right, I'm very happy. If I get 15 to 10 minutes with Tyson in a fight week, I'm talking in a fight week, I'm happy. If I get 10 minutes with Hearn in a fight week, that's what it is, in a fight week. So...
But isn't it also attention span too? I mean, this longer form, the podcasts, and people listen to those, but I don't know, I've got 3 teenage kids and their attention wanders all the time. They're doing this, that and the other, and everything is quick and short and sharp, TikTok. Is it that people just want shorter
Yeah, it is,
content
it
now?
is, but I don't know where I sit in this. I think I have done long interviews. I
Yeah.
still do long interviews.
Which I enjoy.
Yeah, and I like doing them. But at the same time, you have to adapt. Like I said, for a fight week, you're never going to get 30 minutes with anyone unless they're literally like not being interviewed or bored. You're not going to get that time. So adjusting that content to having a mix between your long pieces and then, like you said, your shorter bits. Like your interviews after a fight night, they're not longer than 5 minutes, any of them, are they?
2 or
Because
3
no one's
questions.
really interested
and
in
people, it's late at night.
I know, it's like literally people want to know, what did he say about so-and-so's win? Right, bang, bang. And all them clips are the shortest clips that we'll ever have. So I think IFL's done all right with that, as in terms of having a mixture of the short to the mid-length, like the 10-minuters, 12-minuters, to the longer ones where we do like an hour with Hearn, which I still do. He still gives us the time to do those things. But going back to your question, there's a lot of good interviewers out there and there's a lot of good content getters, and I look for a mix between the two of them.
You came through about the same time as Eddie began to rise in the sport. He is like no other as a promoter, as a salesman. But there's Frank, of course, who's been around longer. There's George, who likes to keep himself in the background a bit more, but is a very smart guy. Spencer Brown, of course, on the scene now. Ben Shalom at Sky, the Sauerlands. Who's your favourite?
Sorry, I think. Do you know what? It's like with the boxers as well, all the promoters. I don't have a favourite. People always like, oh yeah, Matchroom, Eddie, and this is how it used to be. I don't get that anymore because everyone's kind of working together. But I mean, I worked at. We did a show on Frank Warren's Box Nation for like 3 years. Me and James did. And no one was saying, oh, you're Matchroom people now. Well, no, because like, Frank was paying us to do a show once a month, like for 3 years. Like it's never a case of, I think people get confused with where the weight of the content is. So, Adam, if I interviewed you once a week for the next 2 years, people would eventually be saying to me, oh, you and Adam Smith always together. You and Adam Smith, all you do is... That's what I'm saying. I think we've done more stuff, probably, yeah. The weight of shows has been up and down in terms of 1 year. I mean, when was it? A year ago, Eddie said he wanted to put on 50 shows in a year. I think he got to about 40 something or whatever. But we go where the weight of the shows are, but we still cover the same people we've done from day one, which has been predominantly Frank and Eddie, always done, and that's come across Sky as well. Eddie obviously was with Sky prior to Zone, and Frank originally, when we started, was with Sky. So now, again, we've always done, I say Ben Shalom, but he's only been kind of in his position for the last couple of years. So I'd say even from a broadcaster perspective, we've always done Sky, DAZN, Box Nation, like Channel 5, always done there's like 5 or 6 promoters that we've always covered. Anything outside of that, we'll still do them, but I think we've done them for that long that we've always, those kind of top 4 or 5 in the UK have always...
It's a hard question to ask
them.
you who your favourite promoter is or who your favourite fighter is, so maybe it's better to ask who have you enjoyed interviewing the most and maybe the least.
My favourite fighter... Do you know who my favourite fighter is of all time? You should know this. Do you want to guess? I bet you won't get it, actually. If you don't know it, you won't get it.
I don't know. And I should know, probably. I don't know if you know mine. It's a standoff here. Come on, who's your favourite fighter?
My favourite fighter of all time is Naz.
Okay.
Because Naz is the person that got me into even watching boxing. So I've always used that. And I know a lot of people list fighters
From yesteryear.
as their favourite fighters, and they just say it because it makes them sound like they're a boxing historian. I'm not. I know that people do this, and they go, "Who's your favourite fighter?" I was like, Jack Johnson. Like, how many Jack Johnson fights did you watch?
Yeah.
Or like
pluck a name
Ezra
out.
Charles. Okay, how many fights did you watch? Like Muhammad Ali, of all time, is after Naz would be that. Muhammad Ali had his last fight in 1981. I was born in 1981. There is a difference, Adam, of calling someone your favourite fighter if you haven't lived through their era.
I get
Like,
that.
I could only ever watch, like, I wasn't born, like, literally the year he...
Naz was the one that inspired you.
Correct. So that's why I say it's Naz.
And I
because
love,
because
I've got
it
to
is
say,
Naz.
I love working with Naz, possibly more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Frustrating and kept us waiting all the time, but content-wise, incredible.
Yeah. It's a shame he's not used a lot more in...
So what's it like for you to
television
interview
way.
him now?
Yeah, I mean, I
you get a little
interviewed
bit?
him. Yeah, I mean, the first time I interviewed him at the Kell Brook and Matthew Hatton fight. That was the first time. And I was sat there and I was so starved. Literally, I was like, and I was, do you know what? I look at that video and I was probably about 21 stone. I had this massive coat on and I was sitting there and I was going, at the end of it, I was just like, I fucking loved you, Naz. I did love you. I got really like a little bit, whatever. And then since then, he's always kind of batted for me. He's always been good with me, Naz. He took me out once in Sheffield when Errol Spence fought Kell Brook. He took me out for 24 hours. I was out with Naz for 24 hours.
Great memories, eh?
Yeah. But Naz, after that, as an all-time kind of iconic figure of boxing, inside and outside of the ring, Muhammad Ali. But do you understand what I mean?
I totally understand what you mean. You loved him as an inspiration. What about the ones you've interviewed?
Just loads of too many specific or not too many specific reasons, because I do enjoy interviewing a lot of people. I do enjoy interviewing... Do I like interviewing Anthony Joshua for 2 minutes? No. Do I like sitting down with Anthony Joshua for half hour, 40 minutes like I used to do? Absolutely. It's like some people, like, you can't... You know, some people, you might as well not interview them if that's all you've got. And that's... Listen, I get it's a changing game now and there's a lot more commitments for people to do. But, like, those kind of interviews are the most frustrating ones. Those long sit-downs I've done, and there's countless on there with Fury... AJ, Hearn, Frank, all these kind of the top names in the UK boxing are the ones that I've done regularly, but to say what my favourite one is, I don't know.
Least favourite person to interview? Hardest? One that you really struggle with and think, God, I've got to do that?
I told him about it on an interview recently. Carl Froch. The first time I interviewed Carl Froch was prior to his fight with Andre Ward. I think it was me more than Carl, but I was a little bit, it's Carl. But he wasn't being supportive in that situation. So he was like, what's wrong with you then? Like, what? Do you know, like, he made the situation worse when he could have just gone, take a minute. Do you know what I mean? He could have just gone, take a minute.
I love Carl.
Take a minute.
I worked with him a long time.
I do really like Carl. But I said to him the other day, I said,
he's a one-off.
I fucked it up, but you made it more awkward.
Made it much more awkward.
But since
for me.
then, like, I've interviewed Carl like a million times.
okay.
And it's like, not everyone gets Carl. I get that. He's like, ruffling feathers is an understatement. But,
How about the women? Women's boxing. You mentioned Jane Couch originally. Thriving, isn't it? Fantastic.
Yeah, I think women's boxing right now, I think it hasn't dipped, but it's kind of mellowed out a little bit. I think we were at one stage, you know, when like, I mean, obviously we're going to see Katie Taylor soon, but like all the top names in women's boxing, and we were getting like a female fight on pretty much every card that was going on. And I like that, and I think there should be at least one female fight on every card in the UK or whatever. And some of the fights that we've seen, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, I do think right now it just seems a little bit flat in terms of, I know we've got like a few good fights coming up. We've got Sandy Ryan against Michaela Mayer coming up. And then Taylor, obviously. But I don't know, it just seems like right now it's, yeah. But I just think there should be a female fight on every card.
Who's the best fighter in the world?
Terence Crawford.
Okay.
Terence Crawford has always been, for the last 2-3 years, even prior to the Errol Spence win, like, who I regarded as pound for pound number one. The Errol Spence fight cemented that, and for me. Alexander Usyk. I don't know where I put Usyk, but he's got to be there, like in a top 4, 100%. Inoue needs to be in a top 4. I'm not really placing him in which order I want him. I'm just putting Crawford at the top. Is Canelo in a top 4? What's your top 4?
You tell me. I know what I think, but it's not about me. This is your podcast. I think Usyk's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world because of what he's achieved. Terence Crawford's your man.
Yeah.
Okay. Best fighter coming through. I'm going to ask you a few quick-fire ones. You got to be quick here, Cougs. Come on. Yeah. Best fighter coming through.
In the UK? Or?
Yeah, UK.
I'm still waiting for Dennis McCann.
Okay.
I really rate Dennis McCann, and I want to see Dennis McCann now kind of, he's been on the scene for a little while, but I want to see, he's not in a prospect novice stage anymore. Like, now we're going to start seeing big fights from McCann, and he's one of them fighters I actually really, really rate.
AJ or Dubois?
When does this go out? I can't answer that. And the reason I can't answer that is because one of the things that I've maintained on IFL is to never call a fight between two Brits. So I'm never going to do that on camera.
So I can't get you Boatsy Hutchinson, I can't get you Liam Smith against Josh Kelly, I can't get you Kakachi and Warrington, none of them.
But I've
so
never
actually
done that.
It's a bit of a dud event next week.
Do you remember me
for
saying how consistent I was?
It's an unbelievable
I've never ever
event next week.
I've never ever called a fight on camera. A, because it's irrelevant, and B, because I know
It's not relevant to me because I know you know your boxing.
It's so irrelevant, yeah. That's what I get out. Secondly, I know how sensitive boxers are. Like, I know.
Very sensitive.
Do you know, Adam, yeah? I'll give you an example, yeah? Liam Smith and Josh Kelly, yeah? Do you know if I was on this and I just went, yeah, I think so-and-so win, right? If I said either or, I guarantee you one of them would message me. Guarantee you straight away. Oh, right, like that, is it? Whether it's Kelly or Smith, whichever one I thought, which is a great fight next week, by the way.
Of course it is.
And I'll talk to you off camera about what I think, as I always would do, but I'm definitely not.
And I love seeing you around ringside and thinking, so who you got, what you're seeing it, how you're seeing it, because you've been around and you know the sport inside and out. You still loving it?
Yeah, because if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be doing it.
What would you do? What else would you do?
I don't know. Probably still be on the stall in EastEnders. I think by now, if I'd carried that on, I would have had my own stall on there, like Harry Holland. You know Harry Holland, didn't you?
Harry.
He's still on it. He's still got a stall on there.
Bless Harry.
But I think I would have.
A stall on EastEnders.
Yeah, I think I'd have a stall, like a fake designer gear stall. You know, like John Vuitton or
John
Mucci or something. I think that's what I'd have.
So what's the future for IFL and for you?
Yeah, this is like a new phase now. There's a lot of stuff that I've been working on kind of over the last 12 months that for the next 12 months. What we do now is, I'm not saying it's not enough, I'm saying that everything's evolving. So, you know, we want to kind of keep evolving and
You've got to be on your toes, haven't you?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of hungry people out there that want to take, do you know what I mean? They want to be number one or whatever. I'm not saying we are, I'm saying our numbers don't lie. Where we sit amongst the UK and Europe, in America, there's many better channels and bigger channels. But maybe we want to aspire to be better than them, you know. Who knows?
New levels.
Yeah, but just keep doing what you're doing. Always keep doing what you're doing, but always keep evolving as well, because there's no point just me doing what I was doing 5 years ago today.
Could you do another sport? Or has it got to be boxing?
No, because if my first choice to do this would have been football. Football's my first sport.
I know that.
Which people don't sometimes, like when I speak about football, people go, oh, stick to boxing and all this. I'm like, no, football is my sport. I've had a season ticket at Arsenal for 29 years. This is my 29th season at Arsenal.
You're not going to win the league, just to let you know.
What?
You're not going to win the league, but it's okay.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. We come close last year, and I don't.
Declan Rice is a good guy. I'd like to get him on the podcast. Good guy, great player.
Great guy.
Very, very great guy. Okay, so it's not football. It's only boxing. That's your business. Where are we in boxing finally? Turkey Al Sheikh has changed the landscape. Some enormous cards, just dreamlike, aren't they, really? And not just in Riyadh, but around the world now as well. Does it just keep giving and giving to fight fans and fighters?
I hope so, because Riyadh season, kind of the start of it was when Fury fought in Ngannou, that kind of become more known. That's not when it started, but for boxing fans, that's when this Riyadh season with Turkey Al Sheikh kind of started this process from back then. And you got to say, it's not even been a year, and we've had a lot of, not just fight nights, but we've had a lot of fights that wouldn't have happened. I did actually ask Frank Warren this yesterday, and I said, without Riyadh season, the involvement of Riyadh season, how many of these fights, if you look at collectively every single fight that they've put on, not just the main event, how many would have happened? It's difficult to answer, but I think there seems like less obstacles now. Like AJ Fury, we've been talking about it for 7 years. It's come close. All right, it didn't happen because of the Wilder arbitration. But Turkey Al Sheikh said on TalkSport recently that if AJ beats Dubois, even if Fury doesn't beat Usyk, he will make an offer for that fight to happen. And I believe that he will do, regardless of what happens with Fury. I think as Brits, we want to see AJ and Fury. I'm not saying that's a reason to want either fight, but we've campaigned for this fight.
Sure.
You have, everyone has. But it was interesting that he said, despite what happens in the Fury fight, he will make a play if AJ beats Dubois to make that fight after. And I think that that's probably the closest it's going to get, isn't it? I mean, how long are we going to keep talking about this for? I know it came close 2 years ago?
Very close.
It did come very close.
I remember speaking to both Tyson and Anthony. They both wanted the fight. It was really, really, really nearly there. But, I think under Turki Al-Sheikh and what's happened, I think with the promoters working together, anything can happen. Grassroots still important. British shows still important. I'm doing a lot of work with GBM and Izzy. Still great shows are going on. Top Tier, Jamie Conn, lots of things up and down the country. And of course, the Steve Goodwins and the Steve Woods and the Carl Greaves. We can't do without them. They've got to still have their place, haven't they? It's very important.
Absolutely. And those small hall shows that still keep going on now, it's changed a little bit, the small hall scene. A lot of them have got, or some of them, have got exposure on like broadcast networks, which is great. And it's good that broadcasters are actually recognising that element of it, because you get some of the best fights you'll see have been. Do you remember Walsh and Appleby? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that fight at York Hall? Mm-hmm. And if you ask Frank Warren or any of the Warrens about their favourite ever fight on Box Nation, they will definitely list that fight with Walsh and Appleby.
For me, Derek Roach, Scott Dixon, Alex Arthur, Michael Gomez, a little bit more high profile that. But yeah, I mean, so many great fights, Central Area title fights, all sorts I can remember. There was a time where the British title fights just were fantastic week in, week out. We mustn't lose sight of that. We got a great show, actually, the week after AJ in Sheffield, which is just packed with really good
Huey
fights.
Fury, isn't it, on the GBM show?
Huey Fury, Maxie Hughes. You've got Shaq Thompson against River Wilson Bent. You've got Tycee Gallagher, Tori Ellis Willits. You've got Reece Mould and Ryan Walsh. These are good fights. And, they're not on the Saudi stage. They're not global, maybe. But Izzy wants to be on that table. He wants to be part of it. He's seen that Ben's now got involved with Bacoli and with Boazzi, etc. So, they have aspirations, these promoters now. They've seen what they could have.
I know. And listen, there's been a lot of people in the past that have, like Dave Caldwell used to put on these shows at the Magna. Spencer Fearon used to put on, Hard Knocks used to put on shows. I think it's very
Dean White.
Dean White still puts on shows now with Black Box. But I think it's a tough game, that is, to even break even to pull your money. And when they're doing this like every month or anything, I'm like, good luck to you. But it's an hard one. Like when we first started off, I was just quickly like going to a Steve Goodwin show on an 18 fight card. I mean, this was what was happening then. Like Miranda Carter used to put on the shows on a Sunday, and like Sunday boxing was like unheard of. But Miranda Carter would be putting shows on a Sunday. But yeah, all these promoters that did then doing now. You got Johnny Clark, obviously with Top Tier now as well. It's an hard game, and like I said, you need some sort of backing because no one's in it to lose money. So good luck to them, and the grassroots of that is very important to kind of how it shapes boxing's future.
It's a hard business. It's a mad business, boxing. Kugan, finally. Just tell me how much you've loved it over the last 15 years and the passion that's been inside you for this sport and the respect that you've got for these fighters.
Do you know what? It's difficult to explain how much I've loved it, because I was fortunate that I was able to work in an industry that I loved without getting punched in the face. And it's like 14 years that's like a third of my life, nearly a third of my life. That's what, and I'm quite lucky. This is the only part of luck that I gave it, or I'll give it, is that I am fortunate to work in an industry that I love, and it's a made-up job. It is a made-up job. It was a made-up job. It still is a made-up job. It's like there's no blueprint still for this. It's like there's people doing it, which is we think there's loads of people doing it. There isn't. There's probably, is there, I don't know, between the UK and America, is there 200 videographers? I don't know. Is there? or interviewers? I don't know. Is there? Probably. I don't know.
Probably.
But you're talking about a very small amount of people that have pretty much. It's a made-up job. Like, it's not. The best way of explaining this, yeah, is if I'm out and someone goes, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I don't know what to fucking say. Like, I don't know actually what to say to them. I go, it depends. Like, if a woman asked me and went like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" I just go, "I'm a YouTuber," because technically that's what I am, a YouTuber. But I'm not a YouTuber because I'm not in the mold of what people think a YouTuber is. But create content for YouTube. But if a man asks me and says, I'd probably say the same thing, but sometimes I'm stuck about what to say. Like, well, what it is, like, I kind of like interview people. Like, I hate them kind of questions. Like, in general, I always think like, I've never asked someone on a night out or socially, like someone I don't know, what do you do for work? I'm like, I wouldn't ask that. It's like, Kugan, mind your own business. Like, but that's when you're out, don't want to be rude to anyone. So I just say sometimes, yeah, I'm a YouTuber. Otherwise, I just say, sometimes I say I'm in boxing. And then they ask me, are you a boxer? Then I say, I'm definitely not a boxer.
Brilliant. This is Kugan Cassius, not for IFL, but on the Voice of Boxing podcast. Strange not saying that. Kugan Cassius for IFL here with you. Fantastic. It's been great fun. Enjoyed it. Come back whenever. See you on the road, week in, week out. It's been a fantastic journey. I'm really proud of what you've done with IFL, and I think it's great that you stuck with it, and you're an inspiration to so many that have followed you. So thanks a lot for coming on the show.
A pleasure, Adam. Thank you very much for having me on, and no doubt we'll catch up soon.
We will do.
I ended an interview like I normally end an interview.
That's exactly right. The Voice of Boxing in association with Loungers TV. Love that episode with Kugan Cassius. Many more to come. All the characters and the stories in boxing. You'll hear it here on the Voice of Boxing podcast.